Hello and welcome to A Course in Miracles television, and we're going to work this week with Lesson 51 in the workbook. And Lesson 51 is actually a review of 5 lessons, the first 5 lessons in the workbook. And before we get into that, I'd like to introduce the guest, special guest on the program for this show. Next to me on the left is Bob Plath, and Bob is an attorney in Marin County and has been practicing law for how many years, Bob?
Since 1958.
Since 58. And we're going to delve into these lessons basically with the idea of reviewing the first 5 lessons and then applying those lessons to maybe some specific examples. And we have some things in mind about that. First of all, I'd like to just read the lesson itself, or the title of the lesson. And the first one is, this is the very first lesson in the workbook. Nothing I see means anything. Nothing I see means anything. Lesson 1. Lesson 2 is, I have given everything I see all the meaning it has for me. I have given everything I see all the meaning it has for me. Number 3, I do not understand anything I see. I do not understand anything I see. Number 4, these thoughts do not mean anything. And number 5, I am never upset for the reason I think. And that lesson we'll probably come back to many times during the show. Never upset for the reason I think. Lesson 5. And we're on Lesson 51, review in the workbook of the Course in Miracles. So, Bob, let's talk a little bit about applying these ideas. And maybe we can talk also about some specifics. But first, nothing I see means anything. How did that strike you maybe the first time you read it, or even now? How does that...
Well, it was really amazing. One time I did that first lesson in Tahiti, or right outside of Tahiti, Moorea, and the man just sent us out into the beauty around there in Moorea, which was all tropical, and we've just gotten there and so on, and said, do this lesson. Nothing I see means anything. And it's a very powerful lesson, and it's difficult because I find that my mind is always running from past thoughts, which is what the Course says, that they're blocking me from seeing what's really going on right here at this moment. As long as anything's coming from the past, the Course is saying that everything is in this moment. That's where the power is. That's where the beauty is. That's where the world of God is, and that's when you feel peaceful and very quiet, and you feel great. You feel loving, because everything. The Course says that that's the world that God created, which is totally love, and totally perfect, and totally beautiful. And to the degree I don't see that, like today there were things that was going on that where I'm looking at, this is harsh, or I'm really rushed, or I'm feeling a little sick. I'm feeling like under attack from the universe. And the moment I can come back to these lessons, which I did tonight, and all of a sudden realize that I'm only seeing the past, and these are all thoughts that are taking me away from the perfection and the beauty of God at this moment, it does allow me to release that and feel so much better, which I have since then.
Great. So nothing I see means anything. What I hear you saying basically is the Course teaches us to stay in the present moment and not sort of attach our thoughts and the meanings that we have in our mind to what's occurring in the moment, because it tends to be always an interpretation based on the past experiences in our life.
Right.
And our past experiences may not have been pleasant or happy or joyful. And Nothing I See Means Anything is the very first opening lesson of the course in the workbook, and it begins to maybe kind of chip away at our conditioning of how we see things. And I think the course teaches us that how we see things determines how we feel.
Exactly.
In other words, our interpretation of what's going on. It's not so much the Course in Miracles changes anything in our life externally. As a matter of fact, it teaches us a lot to not put our focus on what's going on outside of us so much as how we look at what's going on outside of us, or how we interpret it. And so this lesson begins to build that foundation.
Exactly.
Nothing I see means anything. And then the second one, I have given what I see all the meaning it has for me. And this is the idea of projection. I think the Course brings in very strongly how our mind will project onto circumstances and people and situations. Our mind projects onto things, interpretations and meaning.
Right. The Course is saying that if we make judgments, but we're judging, if we take a drink of water, we're not really even noticing sometimes the water or the cup or so on, but we're going through the same routine that we've done for years, so we're not really noticing. We're kind of, if you were to look around the room right now and see everything in this room and really look at it beyond what the form you or the name you give it, all of a sudden to see how startling it is to see something, even as I look at a camera or so on, how different it is if I see the totality of it at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And
staying totally in the present moment.
Staying totally in the present moment, yeah.
Right.
So the Course is really, in terms of the second lesson, we are giving it all the meaning. We're giving every moment all the meaning, and our thoughts are coloring the whole world that we see. And I started from a world in Detroit where my parents were, terrified in a way. My poor mom, I loved her dearly, but she was scared, very scared. And so I felt that the world was scary. And I learned in religion that God was scary and that punishing and so on and so forth. Yeah, everything was, my God, it was good. You were always under attack, it felt like. Something was going to happen, and that the world was, walked out the backyard, the little kids are all throwing tin cans at each other. This is the way that it is. It's like a world of war. And to let go of that whole series of perceptions now, and come more to a real peaceful perception. I could see peace instead of this, one of the Course lessons. Let you relax and come back to a world of joy and laughter and fun,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. And number 3, I do not understand anything I see. I do not understand anything I see. So again, it's sort of building a base or a foundation in which we begin to really look at, evaluate, you might say, our beliefs, the way we look at things, and begin to accept the possibility that we've misjudged, really, or misevaluated life. And based on our past experiences, based on what, like you're saying, what we've seen when we were children, being brought up with parents and going to school and things like that, we formed a lot of beliefs, and we formed a lot of decisions and attitudes, points of view, that really aren't helpful to us as grown-ups in our situation, and really not helpful to us as children either. But when we grow up, we at least have a chance to change. And I think this is what the Course is saying. Staying in the present moment is the only time we can make changes.
Right.
It's the only time we can change our mind.
Right.
Now.
Right. Yes. And of course, we're not taking these lessons. We're also still dealing with a powerful part of the Course, not in these lessons, but it comes through that, throughout all the lessons later, is that God is love, and therefore, since we are made from God, we're created from God, we are love also.
Right.
So holiness, love created us like itself. One of the lessons is, and in that lesson it says, holiness created me holy, kindness created me kind, wonder created me wonderful. You know what I mean? And so, God, this incredible God, this perfectly beautiful, loving, warm God that really cares for us, once we begin to take that effect into ourselves and feel that and just be loving like that, which I'm having a hard time even really actually getting it across, because it's so enormous, the love that is there.
Very vast.
Then we begin to break out of this past, and it's an incredible breakthrough, because there's so much beauty to it, so much that can emerge from that, so much power, and peace
And how we
love.
see God really determines a lot of our experience, if not all of our experience.
Right, right.
Because we're relating to something outside of us, really, and that relationship determines our feelings, it determines how we see our life, and it also determines how we see other people.
Right.
And so this lesson, I do not understand anything I see, is sort of setting us up to question maybe the values that we've held, the attitudes, the beliefs, and so on, points of view.
Right, yeah, because like one of the lessons that comes later is I trust my brothers who are one with me. And if you see yourself as love and you see your brothers as love and the perfection of them every moment, you know, and that God is that also, and then, I mean, what amazing things begin to transcend from that. So I still work with the ego, still try to break through every day. But how to help me tonight to think about these past thoughts and to see they were doing something to prevent me from really being here, really being present, and really having fun with this moment, you know, and letting God take charge of it. One of the lessons is I will step back and let Him lead the way, you know.
Yeah. Great. And number 4, these thoughts do not mean anything. So this is, it starts to point us to our thoughts and the effect that our thoughts have on our lives and on how we feel and what we see in life and things like that. So it begins to undermine a little bit our thought system, the ego thought system, really. And number 5, I'm never upset for the reason I think. For course students, this lesson is constantly coming up, isn't it?
Yes.
And constantly being brought as an example of how we have put onto the world our interpretation of everything that happens. And this might be a moment to bring in some of the ideas that we talked about earlier, discussing, but I want to maybe just take one moment before we do that and just say we're going to try to discuss a little bit some current event that's going on, and it's a very big current event, and that is the trial of O.J. Simpson, and use the Course in Miracles as a way to look at it a little different than maybe the norm in our culture. And so I want to have a little caveat here that, you know, this is the interpretation. We're giving, first of all, our interpretation of the Course, and second, hopefully, the Course's interpretation of what's going on in the world. And not just the O.J. Simpson trial, but in general what's going on in the world. But this could be an example of how we could use the Course to bring ourselves closer to peace and see life a little bit in a more peaceful way.
I might just say that this today, in terms of the O.J. Simpson, today was opening statements in the O.J. Simpson case, yesterday and today. And it was really interesting to watch how the two attorneys, one the prosecuting attorney, Marcia Clark, and then Johnny Cochran, the attorney for O.J. Simpson, how they present their client, how they present O.J. Simpson, you know. And neither one of them presents O.J. Simpson in Course in Miracles terms, you might say, because Marcia Clark is seeing him as one of the most heinous people that ever walked the globe, and Johnny Cochran is saying the man is totally innocent. Well, in Course in Miracles terms, the man is totally innocent, but in terms of, not in terms of what he did bodily wise, but that underneath, since he comes from God, he is from that innocence of God and that perfection of God, that love of God, and that is what really in our vision we have to keep in mind when we're dealing with O.J. Simpson and prisoners, you know, because you and I both went into San Quentin and we had to deal with sometimes people that were considered horrible and so on, but how we saw them made an incredible difference on how they related to us and how they, quote, healed, you know?
And you and I really don't know. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I don't know if he's, quote, innocent or not.
Right.
And in terms of the Course in Miracles, it really doesn't matter in terms of the Course. Now, worldly innocence and guilt, of course, that all is determined in the world. You know, that's out of our purview. I'm not suggesting that he did do it or he didn't do it. But what the Course says that no matter if he did or didn't, underneath or deep within him is the same innocence that's deep within you, deep within me, deep within everyone. And that is where we have to look to in order to experience peace. We can't look, even if he's, quote, innocent in the world, that's not going to bring us peace. If they find him innocent tomorrow, it's not going to bring us peace. If they find him guilty, it's not going to bring us peace. What's going to bring us peace is us to be able to look beyond the world, look beyond worldly ideas, worldly thoughts, worldly judgments. And so we're going to explore this from that point of view, that there is the Son of God within him, the Son of God within me, the Son of God within you, the Son of God within all of us. And that, once we can touch that, then peace arrives. Peace is already there,
right,
as we already are the Son of God. There's nothing we have to do about that. As a matter of fact, the less we do about that, the better, and the more we relax into it, the
right,
more we experience that.
Right. Well, we're not saying that anybody that is found quote guilty is in terms of in world terms, he's been found to have done that act, that particular act that he was arraigned for or charged with. But we are looking at the concept beyond that. We know that he has to take responsibility for those actions. He lives in a world of agreement that if he does this or so on and so forth, there are certain going to be results that come from that, or consequences.
Yeah.
But then we go beyond that, because in what we were doing with the prison and with the inmates was, how do we go beyond that to work healing? And the Course in Miracles says that, this states that what we would then want to do, to the degree that I worked with Mr. Larry Singleton, who was accused of being an axe rapist and of actually chopping this girl's arms off. And how did it by us approaching him as if he was this incredible person, basically, we could bring that forth, where I knew that if we attacked or came in or put him down or made fun of him or ridiculed what he had done, the man, I felt, was a menace to possibly do further acts of harm. Now, he became my friend, and I've been in touch with him ever since, and he's never done anything of harm to anybody since that time, and it's been I'd say about 7 years now. So there's the question too. How do we the Course in Miracles says, by approaching with love and seeing the perfection of the person, we bring that forth. And in doing so, in healing, when they come back on outside to the outer world, they're going to be much more amenable to getting along with people, to being good-hearted, to getting off the attacks, which is what the Course teaches, that your attack thoughts are what's causing you the problem.
But we're not really doing it for them.
No.
We're doing it for ourselves. Because if we see guilt in someone else, or we see sin in someone else, that is, as we are noticing here and learning here, we have given everything we see all the meaning it has for us.
Right.
In other words, if I see you, let's say that for the moment you're O.J. Simpson, and if I see you as guilty and sinful, what does that do to me? See, that's the real question.
Right, right.
And what we're looking at is, what does it do to us? Well, what that does to us is it reinforces our sin and guilt.
Right, yeah, that's
and
true.
That's what the point has to be. We have to see how it affects ourselves. Forget O.J. Simpson. How does it affect you to see someone, O.J. Simpson or Larry Singleton or whoever, Jack the Ripper, I don't care. Whoever it is that we're looking at, if we see them sinful and guilty, how does that affect us?
That's very vital, because when you vote, let's say, even for the death penalty, what I feel is going on is that we're trying to we're giving in to the murderous impulses within ourselves in a way, and that's not to condemn ourselves. If that's what's occurred, the Course keeps working on the concept of forgiveness, always, to keep forgiving, because what I think ultimately the Course is having us work towards is total love. And total love means forgiveness for everything and love for everything, in all life, and which is a big one. I mean, it's an incredible project. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, and this is controversial, what I'll say, when I think of something like the Holocaust, let's say, I think sometimes that there has to be this incredible burst of energy and release and anger and fear and so on. But again, when we project onto any people that they are that they're the murderers, they're bad, and hold them in that, I mean, we're still within ourselves not healing it within ourselves, which is also where we have to go for healing.
Right, exactly.
You know, so it's an incredibly difficult subject because it's so charged.
Yes.
You know.
Right. So I am never upset for the reason I think. Lesson 5. Okay. So let's explore that a little bit. I'm never upset for the reason I think. So the reason I think I'm upset is someone didn't do what they said they were going to do, or they did something I didn't like, or they didn't do something I wanted them to do, or whatever. The ego wants to project outside the source of everything. In other words, it reverses, the Course says it reverses cause and effect. It makes us an effect and the cause outside. That's the reversal of the truth. And the truth is that we are the cause and the effect is outside. And so how does that, I am never upset for the reason I think, how does that bring it back to us in terms of being responsible for our upsets?
Well, I think what the Course is saying is that all of these upsets come from seeing what's going on from the past.
Right.
Their past thoughts.
Right.
And therefore, you're upset always about something that happened in the past, and to the degree that you can release that past and look at the present, that in being in the reality, you'll find it peaceful and beautiful, you know, so that...
and the reality is now.
The reality is now.
Always
it's
now.
Always now, eternally now.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
You and I are here together now.
Right.
I mean, we had a slight disagreement this morning, and we both were able to forgive and get beyond that and be here now.
Right.
And I'm enjoying you enormously, just like you with me.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to do, is keep letting the ego, which fights to separate us, these past thoughts, you know, keep letting it drop. Keep
we have to begin to see how our thoughts affect our experience,
right,
and
exactly.
how our thoughts affect our feelings.
Right.
If we don't make that connection, we'll never change. It'll never change. It's
Right.
endless.
Right. Yeah. True.
As they say in the East, it's the wheel of samsara, the wheel of illusion, continues, 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 until we begin to see where the source of it is, and that's always within us. And that's why the Course is so valuable for me personally, because it always puts it back to me.
Yeah, right.
That I'm not a victim of the world, I see.
Right.
Another lesson of the Course.
Right.
And my salvation comes from me.
Right.
And so it always brings it right back to us.
Yeah, it's a like Marianne Williamson has said, you know, sometimes she want to throw the book, you know, like because it brings you back to you, and it doesn't let you off the hook ever.
Ever.
So ever.
Ever.
So it is a complete package, you know, that's got you totally intertwined with it, because to really love, there can't be any phoniness about it, you know. To whatever degree attack thoughts creep in, you know, you're missing the boat, and you can't get away from it.
Well, the attack thoughts will come in, but what we have to learn is to disregard them.
Right.
In other words, what we tend to do is make them real. We have the thought, and then we project. Let's say, you know, again, let's use O.J. Simpson. I'm at home watching the trial or whatever, listening to the news, and I'm making my judgments. And I mean, you know, some people are seeing him totally guilty, others are seeing him innocent. You know, it doesn't matter. What matters is, how do you feel as you watch this?
Right.
How does it make you feel? Or how do you feel as you watch this? And what we have the option of doing, or the choice, is to say, I don't have to believe in the world of guilt. I don't have to believe in the world of sin. Yes, this man may or may not have done something, but I want to stay in my state of peace. And where do I stay in peace? I stay in peace when I see my innocence. And how do I know I'm innocent? Because it's being reflected back to me as I watch this television. And that's one thing that I learned pretty early in the Course of Miracles, is I could watch TV, and I caught myself watching television and being like football games. You and I are talking a lot about football. You know, we watch the 49ers and listen to the 49ers play, and we can go crazy because they're winning or they're losing, and we go on this emotional roller coaster about a game.
Right.
About a game. So we can imagine how these news articles and stories can incite us if we're not conscious of what they're doing.
Well, that's right. I mean, I just watched yesterday when Marcia Clark was giving her. I tend to be more for the defense a little bit, and she felt very angry. She was really out to get O.J., it felt like, and my tendency is to sort of get defensive or you know, like see her as
Protective,
being
yeah.
overly, and I get scared of it. And so it is plugging me into something from the past that is bringing up fear, obviously.
Yes.
Because it's, of course, it's saying it's all past thoughts that are coming up now to be handled. And like you said, if you can disregard your anger thoughts or your attack thoughts or your fear thoughts or your greed thoughts or whatever, which are all ego, anything that's not love is of the ego, and it separates us from each other.
Mm-hmm.
If you can process those also. I've used, as I told you before, a thing called a love letter, where I write out the anger, write out the sadness that comes after that, write out the fear.
So we're not denying the feelings.
Yeah, don't deny the feelings, but process them, because as you take the love letter through, it comes down to take responsibility now for what part you played in the thing. You know, I'm sorry that I, you know,
Mm-hmm.
hit you in the head or was so mean or not loving or, you know, demanded this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do all that, as a natural consequence, it comes to forgiveness. I forgive you, please forgive me. And then all of a sudden love rotates in automatically.
And that's the miracle.
And that's the miracle.
That's the
yeah.
miracle. And the miracle, in terms of the Course, is a shift of perception.
Right.
Now, that may or may not show up in the world as a reaction or a consequence or something, but it's just being able to experience the peace and the love and the joy that's there when forgiveness occurs, when we're willing to see forgiveness. Really.
Right, right. And it's beautiful, because as the Course is also saying that all of these, that the shifts of perception, which are all shifts from fear to love, are all really just meant to break us out into love. I mean, in other words, the shifts of perception are from illusion to reality. And the only thing that's real is the love.
Right.
And everything else is unreal.
And we have to base our life on that. We have to
Right.
take the risk,
Yeah.
the faith that that's the truth.
Right.
That all that really is love.
Right. And the most amazing thing about that is, too, as I get to believe it, I mock it up first. I have to mock it up first that I believe it. And as I get to believe it, then all of a sudden I finally have to come into
We're
it
gonna
and
have to
let it
cut
go.
it
In
off.
fact, my time is about done here. So not getting into illusions, it's been a great program, and I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Bob, for
Oh,
being
thank you,
on.
Barry.
Thank
God.
you for watching. God bless you. Goodbye.
Bye.